let's start with the context. When I speak about precision agriculture, I would like to show you these two fields. The one on the left-hand side, which I would love to have all the fields in agriculture like this, because there is no problem, and there is no need for precision agriculture, because there is no spatial variability. But actually, in reality, this is the one on the right-hand side, where you have great or different degrees of spatial variability. And then I need to tackle each of those zones differently, meaning that I should apply different fertilizer rates, different manure rates, even different seeding rates, and so on. And in order to do so, my aim is to maximize yield and reduce the environmental impact by reducing the amount of agrochemicals applied in particular. So that is the principle of applying the 5 R's, which is the main principle of what is called a variable rate application or site-specific application, which is applying the right products in the right place, right time, and the right rate using the right technology. So it's the 5 R's that is well known in precision agriculture. And it can be summarized in 3 milestones. The first one is sensing. You have first to map the spatial variability at high spatial resolution. And to do so, you need to use advanced sensor technologies. You cannot rely on laboratory-based sampling analysis because it's very expensive, slow, and will not deliver the task that we hope to have from this sensor technologies. And then we need to do advanced machine learning and geostatistical modeling to transfer the data into information. When I say data into information, like I want to translate the spectral data into nitrogen or carbon or phosphorus in the soil. And lastly, then, once I know what are the spatial variability, I would like them to create a decision support system to tell me how much fertilizers I should apply at different zones in the field. So it's sensing, modeling, and control. When I started this 25 years ago, I was asked to have a vision of what we want to do until you retire. And then I come with this, it didn't change much, except the last part of it, which is milestone number 5. So it has 5 different milestones. The one on the bottom, we need to have really a sensor that produces good data. I'm not talking about sensors that are commercially available. And to be honest, many of those deliver fake data. They say we can measure mineral nitrate in the mineral nitrogen in the soil. Actually, they cannot, for instance. Once you have good sensor technologies for crop and soil, then you can move into the 2 different milestones, which is variable rate application. That is two milestones, the one which called map-based variable rate application, and the other one which is real-time sensor-based variable rate application. And now, recently, we created a new concept of precision application, which is map sensor-based, when I am combining milestone 2 and milestone 3. So everything is fully automated in real time, the application. So it's very much engineering, to be honest, and ICT involved a lot. And lastly, as you see, we are managing field scale variability, but someone will say, okay, what happens at large scale, for instance, landscape scale? Then that is much beyond what I'm going to present today. And that is for milestone number 5, where we need to upscale what we have done at field scale. For future research, perhaps, for another professor to come and work on this for the coming 20 years or so. So what I mean by data fusion is it's like you go to a doctor and you say, I have a pain in my shoulder. What I should do? Yes? So then they start to take your blood pressure, your blood samples, your urine samples, and they example everything. And they measure what the different problems of causing the disease or the problem. They say, oh, I know now, it's maybe diabetes you have or whatever. It's the same thing here. It's a system. When you talk about, I have a part of the field that is suffering, then I need to treat that part of the field, and then I should know what is in the soil. It's a problem of nitrogen leakage, shortage, it's a problem of disease stress, or it's a problem of water drainage or whatever. And to do so, I need to have multi-sensors collecting data of different crop and soil and even topography parameters and weather conditions in the field, and then to tell me what is the problem. And that's what we do that's what I mean by multi-sensor data fusion. So I give you an example of what we use in our group, which has been invented almost 20 years ago. It is a kind of multi-sensor platform. You see it in here. It's kind of a subsoiler. To the back of it, there is an optical probe that is connected with two optical fibers, one to translate the light source into the soil while moving by a tractor, and then the diffused reflected light collected by spectrophotometer in the visible and near infrared. We do collect data in real time, but produce then calibration models in advance that while we move, we can predict key soil parameters like organic carbon, total nitrogen, and clay content with high accuracy, and some other nutrients with a little bit lower accuracy. I'm talking about accuracy between 60 and 80 R-square compared to the lab analysis, but I would be very happy when I say I can collect at least 500 samples per hectare in 1 or maybe in half an hour, compared to 1 sample per hectare that will cost 80 euros by laboratory analysis. And that will allow me then to see the spatial distribution of different parameters, and then I can give the medicine to the soil. Another technology we have developed, I think most of you will know what is penetrometer. And penetrometer here, for those who have not used it, it's used to penetrate and measure the penetration resistance in the soil down to any depth. What we did is we made that penetrometers more clever when we included also an optical fibers inside and sapphire window to also illuminate light and detect the diffused reflected light back. So we penetrate down to 50 centimeters and collect the reflected light. So these light spectra can then be translated into different soil characteristics by producing in advanced calibration models. And then we put also a sensor to measure volumetric moisture content based on frequency domain reflectometry. So these combinations so far have been tested to measure key soil nutrients parameters, but also we can do bulk density. Yeah? When I say bulk density, I mean I can measure soil compaction at different layers, and then I say where is the problem to treat by tillage. We have also, so as I said before, we don't only focus on soil, but we also focus on crop. So we have a sensor box that can be put on a spray boom or any frame, which can collect data on the crop. That includes a thermal camera, a hyperspectral camera, a LiDAR, and crop circle camera, so that we can detect biotic and abiotic stresses. I don't claim that we can measure everything. We can measure some soil some crop biotic problems. I can show an example today or two, but we cannot measure everything. So in the future, there will be more work to be done on this different topic. So, but what we also do is we can use a robotic platform, as you see in here, which is commercial. We are not inventing robots. Also, my group is now designing small robots to detect crop biotic and abiotic stresses individually for each plant individually. But this is a robotic platform from AgroIntelli, which is a Danish company, and to which we can link the soil sensor and also any different machinery so that we can detect and also manage the spatial variability. We have one field in Belgium for the first time ever, which was managed completely by robotic platform. So sensing and applying different processes until the crop yield is, except the crop yield, because you have to harvest the crop and you cannot link it with robotic platform. So we have demonstrated this success to the Minister of Agriculture in the Flemish government. So you see everything can be automated, and by end of the measurement, we can also produce maps of the spatial variability. Okay, let me give you now some examples. I would, for the sake of time, I will jump from yellow rust example to move to the next example, which is to fusarium, for instance. As I said before, I want to give you a flavor of what we can do about the crop biotic stresses. So here I am speaking again about multi-sensor data fusion. So I have the soil sensor to collect data on soil. I have hyperspectral camera to collect data on crop fusarium head blight, and I have remote sensing data from Sentinel-2 to collect data on NDVI. I can measure fusarium head blight, and then I can divide the field into different management zones. But when you measure fusarium head blight, it will be too late, so you cannot apply, because it will happen 2 weeks before harvest. So what you do is just to harvest each of these management zones into different categories. One healthy, do not have mycotoxin. One is medium contaminated, so some mycotoxin there, another category, and the third one, which is highly contaminated, can be used for energy productions. And that will increase the price. So, but as I said before, when you measure it, it's too late. So you have to forecast where fuse are happening. And that's where also when you use multi-sensor data fusion, which is soil data, crop data from Sentinel-2, and then you produce these forecast maps, as you see. But once you are able to forecast fuse are bed like 2 days before the variable rate application of fungicide, then you can run experimental plot to compare between uniform rate fungicide application against variable rate fungicide application. And then you can say how much I applied fungicide in each of these 2 different parts of the field. And then I can also measure yield in order to see what is the input and what is the output. So I can run cost benefit analysis and environmental analysis, because this is what we want to do: maximize yield and minimize the inputs used so to save the environment. So we have done this exercise in 3 fields in Lithuania, and we have seen a profit of 100 euros per hectare, 84 euros per hectare in 2 fields, but 1 field was a loss of 50 euros per hectare. That was last year, so this is the first time ever we try to do it this way. Now we are doing again the same exercise this year in Lithuania and Belgium, and that is under ICT Agri Food funded project. I am the coordinator of this. Is a European project. We have 5 or 6 partners, and but we have done also. So okay, now we have we measure in advance, so we forecast the fuse and head blight. But what happens as well after the cropping season? I mean, before the cropping season, we can also combine the cost benefit analysis for preventive site specific spraying, what we have explained, and also we do selective harvest. So dividing the crop yield into different categories of healthy, non-healthy. I'm talking about mycotoxin healthy or non-healthy products. And by combining those, we have seen the net income on profitability could be 94 euros per hectare per year. But we have seen also a reduction in carbon dioxide emission by almost 2% and an increase and a reduction of human toxicity by 2.4% by running a life cycle analysis. So I'll give you an example now on fertilizer. I love to always present this exercise. This is done in 1 field in the UK, which was about 22 hectares. We went in 2011, we measured phosphorus, as you see the map on the left-hand side, and we saw some high concentration of phosphorus in the bottom end of the field. And we asked the farmer, what is happening here? And you see, it's kind of artifact. He said, yes, I come with my manure injector because it's easy to access from this part of the field. There is a road parallel to this end of the field. So I inject my manure every year. And that's why there is an increase in phosphorus content. So we said, don't do that. He really didn't do it next year. So in 2012, we went again, and we start to see that this artifact start to disappear. But we seen the same time there is an increase in phosphorus in that end. You know? So we asked him, what is the problem? He said, oh, I did not do anything by myself. I don't know, maybe your sensor is not correctly measuring things. Luckily, my technical officer was also working for him part-time. So after we finished the meeting, he said, Abdul, no, this time he took his manure injector and he went up to this corner to see if your sensor detects things correctly or not. So always I say, don't underestimate the farmers. The farmers will really, because they pay the money, so they will really verify if your sensor or if your technology works or not. In case it doesn't work, the problem is that it will not say that this scanning technology is bad, maybe Mouazen's technology is bad, but then the technologies which come later, which is very good technology, they will not buy it because they would say, oh, this is like Mouazen technology. So I always said, don't sell air to the farmer because they will not buy the meat when the meat becomes available. All right, so we have also done a more advanced technology. We have put the sensor in front of a maize planter. So we measure phosphorus in advance, and to the back of it, there is a maize planter from Amazon, which can, in real time, control the amount of phosphorus fertilizer to be put beside the seeds. And that was really done in a fully automated way, sensing, modeling, and control in one pass, very fast. We have, at that time, it was in 2008, so we have only seen an increase in maize yield by 336 kilograms per hectare, but we have not seen any differences in the phosphorus applied by the farmer. So today we are not able in this way to measure nitrate. And nitrate is very important for nitrogen fertilization. So what we do, you have to find a solution. And that is based again on multi-sensor data fusion. And here we have the soil sensors that collect several layers of data. We have remote sensing to collect data on NDVI or leaf area index or whatever index on the crop growth. We have also EMI to also collect an extra data on soil. And then at the end of the day, we try to link everything to crop yield, because that is our main factor to say what is the yield limiting factors. What are these, among these parameters, what is the yield limiting factors? When we cluster these different layers of data, we produce what is called fertility zone maps. Here in this case, we have 5 classes. Each class will be according to yield production, and soil fertility will be divided, will be ranked into low fertility up to the maximum high fertility. And then over that, we have a strict experiment to compare between uniform rate and variable rate nitrogen fertilization. And we implement that in one field. You see the same field in the UK. And we have seen there is an increase in profitability, which is gross margin by 50, 60 euros per hectare. And I would say now, with trustfulness, that an average for nitrogen fertilization, the farmer can make 50 euros per hectare. In some cases, we have reached up to 150 euros per hectare. And that depends on variability and other factors affecting this process. But what I would like also to say that in 7,000 hectares of land, over 4 years of crop rotation, one sensor like this can save up to 156,000 euros per 7 hectares of land. And that is because we can apply the right amount in the right place and right time, meaning that the crop will consume what we apply, and there is no extra being wasted into the environment, to water resources and into the air. So there is no need to clean those resources. And if we don't need to clean those resources, then the taxpayers will save up to 156,000 euros over 4 years by covering 7,000 hectares of land. We went even to more advanced solution where we have first to produce the management zone map in September, August, in the last cropping season. And in this year cropping season, we have a crop sensor to measure crop characteristics, and based on synchronizing the data of soil and current crop growth, then we can optimize the nitrogen fertilization. We have seen an increase in 40 euros per hectare compared to uniform rate, and reduction in the applied amount of nitrogen of 7.5 liters per hectare. Again, when you include robotics platform, you could also combine different processes. Like here you see we have again management fertility zone maps. We have then variable rate seeding. Yes, how much where I should put the seeds, how far from each other depends on the soil fertility. And again, I can then produce variable rate nitrogen fertilization the way I explained it before, and that also can be optimized fully, and then I can compare that with yield map, and we have seen an increase in gross margin of 47 euros per hectare. Of course, this is only one cropping season application, except nitrogen fertilization. I can now trustfully saying I can make an average 40, 50 euros per hectare without problem. But it's even more fully automated system. You put the sensor in front of a tractor, and on the back of it, there is a maize seeder. You measure a soil fertility index that is correlated to optimized seed rates, and then based on that you can optimize the seed rate over in real time. And we have seen an increase in profitability up to 91 euros per hectare for silage maize. In potato, it goes up to 450 euros per hectare. Gentlemen, 450 euros per hectare if we go to potato. So cash crop will be the most profitable in this case. And then the eyes of farmers will shine immediately. Let me give one example of manure. I think those from Holland, Northern France, Germany, and Belgium knows what happens with manure. A lot of manure is being injected, and our soils are saturated with manure, so we need to do something about it. Maybe precision agriculture can help. So again, we do the same principle of multi-sensor data fusion. We produce soil fertility map, as you see it in here, and then we try to compare between uniform and variable rate application. And you see in this exercise, I think that was for wheat, we have increased yield by up to 2.3%, profitability 2%, and we reduce N application by 4% and phosphorus application by 7%. These can all contribute to soil health, and then regenerative agriculture will be part of this. More advanced application is when you combine soil data, which is phosphorus measured again in August, September. And during the application of manure in the field, we designed a sensor, again, near infrared sensor on the manure outlet. So we can measure phosphorus in manure, and we can measure phosphorus in the soil. And by synchronizing the data coming from the two sensors, we can optimize how much manure should be injected at different parts of the field. And that is also respecting the legislation by saying you should not increase N to P ratio by XY values, and that is something we can do now. So fertigation, I am also coordinating a project called Adverti, which is again ICT Agri-Food, will end this year in August, and that is few European partners involved in that. And again, we do multi-sensor data fusion. We have weather data, we have real-time moisture data, and then we have machine learning. Somebody produces calibration, validation, and we have developed a host real irrigation systems that have 4-section control of nitrogen and water. Yeah, so nitrogen and water, and based on what we measure in the soil and what we can forecast for weather conditions and the current moisture content measure, then we can optimize the amount of water applied and also nitrogen application as well. So we have seen, again, an increase of profitability 4%, reduction of CO2 by 4%, very interesting 27% reduction in water use. You see all this 5% here, 2% there. So if you have an integrated site-specific application or variable rate application, I think this 2%, 3% can go up to 10%, maybe 15%. So I am a believer of this technology, despite these numbers proved there's still no decision support system, an integrated decision support system. That I am a farmer, I have 400 hectares, I come to you as a service provider, and I ask, I have this farm specification, can you tell me now what would be my return on investment? Yesterday was a discussion about profitability against environmental benefits. And I think for farmer, most farmers will say, I need a return on my money. I need to know what is my profitability if I adopt this farmer, and how long will be my return on investment, 2, 3 years, whatever, tell me. And then second priority for them is, okay, how much I can save the environment. And by time 10 years ago, farmers were really mostly focused on economic profitability, but now they start to really take care of the environment. I disagree somehow that in India maybe profitability, but in Europe many farmers are really interested in saving the environment. So my conclusion, yes, potentially variable rate application can contribute to mitigate the climate change effect and also maybe contribute to the regenerative agriculture. Thank you very much for your listening.
Excellent. Yeah, this is actually absolutely great to see precision agriculture in action, really, not just to kind of talk about the potential, but to actually see it done. Excellent. So any questions?
I wasn't clear whether the cost of the extra technology and its deployment is actually factored into the economics.
In many of those cases, yes, but the cost of that is based on service providing, which when I say service provider, I'm counting for 13 to 15 euros per hectare per year. The farmer has to pay. But if you divide this 15 euros per hectare to variable rate nitrogen, variable rate phosphorus, variable rate seeding, variable rate irrigation, then this will be diluted. So when I say 50 euros per hectare profit for nitrogen, let's take off 5 euros per hectare cost of scanning, then we are still very positive.
The other question I had is whether the technology can deal with systems that are not road systems. Conventionally in agriculture, there would be a road type system, but there's been some discussion about alternatives, whether it actually has the flexibility to deal with those.
Do you mean
different planting systems?
Yeah, I was in Holland last week in a mission organized by the Dutch embassy in Belgium, and they have this strip. You mean the strip? Yeah, strip agriculture, and why not? I think the sensor can go for each strip apart, yeah, in parallel to the strip, and then can characterize the soil. And we're starting now new initiatives that we try to collaborate with Wageningen University on their experimental farm, where they have this strip, which is very interesting, to be honest, the experiment they have.
Great. So that was absolutely great. Thank you. And so the benefit